Hi and welcome to another one of our videos where today I'm going to show you how to amplify your strength training results using what I call the intensity volume curve. Alright, so I'm going to explain what all that means to make it easy for you. When I talk to people about strength training, and especially people who are stuck, they're in a plateau or they're just not getting anywhere, usually they're making some of the classic mistakes. So the classic mistakes are they're always training at the same intensity over and over and over again, right? Just using the same exercises all the time. And the second big mistake that they make is they overtrain. So that because they're not getting anywhere, they start adding workouts. They start trying to put more and more things on top of each other and training almost every day of the week. So if you're training too often, you're going to end up in a bad place. So it's more about getting better quality workouts with really good recovery methods. So when you understand that, like we know that training is meant to progressively overload the body and its fuel stores, which if you don't have enough training, then there's not enough overload, so you don't adapt and there's no change. But if your workload's too great, or it's progressed way too fast, and the classic mistake here, without enough rest, then fatigue follows and your performance is reduced. So you're not actually getting better from training more, you're getting worse. So it's a fine line between not training enough and training too often. Generally with strength training, like 3 times a week is probably the most. I know people do split programs and that's more from the bodybuilding side of things. I really would avoid using that and try to use methods where you're incorporating the whole body, meaning that you're only really going to be able to train at a high level 3 times a week. Alright, so this is where I'm going to quickly recap on progressive overload, but there's a whole video on YouTube and there's an article on our website, so look in the description of this video. So I've given you a few links to some of these things that I've mentioned, but basically if we add training here, so we add some strength training here and we take it to exhaustion, so this is day 1, so completely annihilated the fuel stores and the tissues and the fibers, they're all smashed, so they have to be repaired. Alright, and that's going to take at least 2 days. Alright, so regeneration repair process in place, but it's not finished. So if this is Monday and you come back and train Wednesday, you're not actually fully repaired yet until really here, which is what they call super compensation. So really you're training at a diminished rate. So it's not wise to come in and use a really intense workout there. You definitely wouldn't want to do the one there because your tissues and that haven't repaired anything yet, so it takes at least that long for that to be developed. All right, so it's around about this stage here that you're looking to sort of add it, so that towards the end of day, so you train morning on day 1, and towards the end of day 3 and maybe day 4 if you left it another day, that's when you're really going to get the most out of your work. So it doesn't mean you can't do things here, you just have to pick better workouts, things that are less intense. This is where your mobility drills and movement skills and stability training really come into play here, because these are always done at a low level anyway, and they really super enhance the hard workouts, which would be day 1 and day 4. All right, so you're really doing some awesome stuff here, it's just not at the same intensity. All right, so you must understand the progressive overload curve to get the most out of your training. More training doesn't mean better, just good training means better. Alright, so the key is to keep the body guessing with programs that provide constant new challenges. If the body will only adapt to the level of challenge that you give it, and it will not improve any more until it's given a greater one. So if you're always using 3 sets of 10 with the same exercises all the time, at first there's a challenge when you first do it, but over time you know exactly what's coming. So a lot of people can change the exercise, and that really is a great way to sort of shake things up, but over a period of time you end up knowing all the exercises inside out, and even when you change them you get a little bit of a change for the first week or 2, but then you really quickly adapt because your skills are already there. It's when you don't know the skills and the coordination, the timing, that's when it really shakes you up and makes you quite exhausted. So the variables that you can use, obviously, like change the exercise, changing the sets, changing the reps is probably the biggest one besides exercise, changing the rest time, and changing the tempo, how fast you're actually doing it. These are all excellent ways to do it, but how do you do this without just making stuff up at random and really not running with it for a long enough time to actually get any adaptation and change from it. That's another thing I see people doing too often, a bit like with the WODs that we see in CrossFit. They're changing it so often, you're never actually good at anything. And to be honest, 90% of those workouts are really volume training. They're just really the same thing over and over, like just huge amount of volume. They're never really training at a high intensity level, which I'll explain in a second. So this is where I use what's the volume and intensity curve. So basically what you're going to try and do is go from high intensity to low intensity every, say, 4 to 6 weeks. So if I start here at this first one, I'm going to use simple sets. I'm going to be doing a stack of sets, but really minimal amount of reps. So the intensity is really, really high. So I'm going to be working with, say, reps at 3 to 6, or not even 6, probably 3 to 5, and might do 5 to 6 sets. But then when I come to after 4 weeks time, I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to reduce the amount of sets to 2 to 3, but I'm going to increase the amount of reps to obscene amounts of like 10 plus 10 plus 10. So I'm going to do 30 reps in one volume of set. So I'm going to end up doing in one, so if I'm doing the exercise of bench press here, I might only end up doing 15, 16 reps over a period of 10 minutes. Where I might end up doing, by the time I've done this, I've done nearly 300 reps in the space of 10 minutes. All right, the intensity is very low, exhaustion and get puffed out here. I hardly feel like I've done anything, but everything I've picked up is going to try and crush me. All right, so you can see if the blue line is the sets and the orange line is the reps, as the sets decrease, the reps increase, and vice versa. So as the reps decrease, the sets increase. Basically, this just forces my body into a complete shock. I never really feel like I'm ever good at anything. So if, for example, so I'm doing my reps here, I'm really sort of like power stuff, heavy deadlifts, even heavy squats, you know, everything where I really struggle to get 5 reps. I've got to make sure my technique is really sound here, which I'll expand on more later. And then I move into the complete opposite, where I'm just complete annihilation using battling ropes and low, probably more complex exercises here. And then back to simple exercises, and then back to complex exercises, so power training and then circuit training. So you can see here, high intensity is defined reps of 1 to 5, or if I'm using time, say if it's speed training, it's sprinting over, say, 50 meters to 100 versus, say, endurance training of, say, 400 meters plus. All right, so it's a completely different energy system once I sort of shift from that 15 to 20 seconds of work to anything more than that. All right, so plyometrics, jumping, power training, high intense, all the low intensity stuff is everything else. All right, and that's sort of a simple way to look at it. Right, so this one comes with high risk because you really, because the intensity, so there's really no chance for mistakes there, or injury can occur. So just as you're really starting to get good at everything, you make serious progress, everything flips on its head and you're upside, and you pretty much feel, I don't know, you have to experience this to know what it's like, but you're just really getting used to the intensity, and then all of a sudden the simple things seem like so hard, and then you get used to them, and then you're back to the other one again. So like I said before, it's not from training more, it's just making sure that every session counts. So if I'm doing these high intensity training, so my low reps and more sets, you really want to keep it, so the reps are the key here. Sets you might only do 4, but 6 sets will really give you a huge overload. Rest period is very important here. You really don't want a 1 minute rest. It won't be long enough. 2 minutes minimum, sometimes even longer, because you just won't be able to lift it again. It's amazing how quickly the 2 minutes goes. You really haven't done a lot, but you just know that your nervous system's fried. Where on this one, volume is, this is the one that where most people are working, so they're pretty familiar with this, but you really don't want to take more than 1 minute rest on this. And sometimes the circuit, there's actually no rest at all. It's just like, say, 10 exercises straight with nothing. All right, so that's why the intensity is so low. There's really less chance for mistakes here, although you can get sloppy and get away with it. On this one, you won't get away with the mistakes. So when I say it's less risk, it's sort of, you've got to be very conscious of poor form creeping in here, because you will get away with it. This one, obviously, you won't. All right, so favourite methods on this one that I might use, simple sets, which are like I described before, wave loading, which I'll show you in a second, and power and plyometrics and things like This one, obviously, there's endless ones, and most people are very familiar with this stuff, so I'm not going to go into this one. And there's videos we've done on these before, and you can check them out. So fair to say volume's overdone. So low intensity training, obviously best if you're learning form and you're trying to learn skills. And so if you're changing exercises, keep it low intensity, don't go to the crazy stuff. But if you're an advanced training person and and you've done not much of this is really where your potential to how good you really can be will be found. So just make sure you have a training partner or a spotter. If you have an injury, definitely don't do that. But you will get some awesome results from this. It just takes quite a while to get used to it. That's all. Right, so a couple of my favourite ones, simple sets. So as it pretty much sounds like, you do a warm-up set first before you do go straight into heavy stuff. Rest a couple of minutes, and then increase the weight to the amount that you'll find it hard to get 5 reps out. Rest about 2 minutes, sometimes maybe even more, and complete it, 4 to 5 more sets if you can. If you can't lift at least 3 reps, then lower the weight. You don't want to really go 1 rep max training too often. It comes with like just that little bit too much risk if you're powerlifting and that they're into that. But if you're just a general Joe, just wants to get a bit more stronger and fitter, that really don't work in that less than 3 reps. It gets a bit dangerous then. And also be very, very careful with things like squats and deadlifts, because the spinal positions and that can be quite risky if your form's not great. So things like chin-ups and other exercises like that, dumbbell row or something, they're very, very less risky, and you can train at this intensity and not have much go wrong. Wave loading is my other one. A much harder version of high intensity training. It's a bit sort of complex to explain, but basically you're really going to try and do 6 sets. Weightlifters might do 9 sets, but I find it just takes too long to get the workout done. So if I'll do 6, and again, weightlifters will go 3, 2, 1. They really want to work 1 rep max because that's their competition, but we're not weightlifters, so don't do it. Just make it a bit safer. Alright, so basically it starts like if I do my first set on 100 kilos at 6 reps, next go I'm going to increase the weight, try to get out 5, then next set 4 reps. Then this is where it gets tricky. I come back to the first lot of 6 reps and I add the weight that I did 5 reps, and then I go 5 reps, 4 reps. You really need a spotter for this. You're sort of forcing out things at times. You've got to be a bit careful. In a perfect world, it sort of comes out like this. It's funny though, over time you do find that you do get good at it. I did this for quite a long time, and it's amazing just that 1 rep. It's only 1 rep, but it seems like such a mountain to climb. But it's amazing how strong you can get when you're doing this. And again, I just have to stress, just be careful on all the spinal position movements. You can really do some serious harm if your technique's not there. All right, so just keep the exercise really simple, and you'll be fine. And if you want even more ideas, go to our website, grab our little black book. I'll give you 100 workouts that you can do. You can go to our online shop on our website, just follow this link. Again, look in the description of this video because it'll be there, along with plenty of other links to some articles that might help you out. But this is a great way to sort of mix up your training, mixing from volume training to high intensity training, back to volume, back to intensity. Keep doing that, and you'll get amazed at the results you get from training probably less, if anything, because you'll be so sore all the time. So a great way to sort of mix things up and really make 2018 a massive year for you. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you on our next one.